me. So thank you for the invitation and that I could be the part of this conference. My paper will be concentrated about the motif of collage and photomontage in Slovak illustration of 1960s. So I try to share my screen. So I hope that you will see my first slide.
Yes, we see.
Yes, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Maybe you can try to switch between slides to see if it works.
Yeah, it is.
Good, it works.
This is okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So the experiment on the surface, collage and photomontage in illustrated books of the 1960s in Slovakia. The book and publishing culture of early 1960s saw a shift towards actualizing the artistic visual aspects. This was due advising of printing technologies, improvement of images reproduction, but also try a new generation of illustrators and printmakers and new publishing opportunities. The shift and political tide, the regime has been noticeable signs of late 1950s. And examples of exhibition of Czechoslovak pavilion at Expo 58 in Brussels, where experimental approaches were applied to the architecture of exhibition itself and the intermediate display Laterna Magica, the projection principle of polyecran or polyscreen with a specific dynamical form industrial design. The Brussels style and introduced a new formal elements, dynamical formed industrial design. The Brussels style has improved a new formal elements into the visual execution, book covers, envelopes, and the graphic design of the books. The Brussels style is represented by asymmetrical composition, flat colors, geometric design actuating the dynamics, and work with the contrasting colors and lines. The pastel tones are used. The curator and art historian Marta Silvestrova characterized the Brussels styles in graphic design. Here is some examples from book covers and a poster of late 50s. And I quote from Marta Silvestrova text. The whole concept of graphic design, where component and form and space, material and techniques, text and image, everything subordinate of the overall impression of the work. Line, space, texture, tone, color, and typography have become a means of intuitive emotional expressions, form abstracted into geometric shapes and subordinate to dynamic expression, with the correspondence to geometric stylization conceived the artistical impressive design. An important element of artistic design of the books was a juxtaposition between images and visual relationship between the text and the image. The visual element that begins the emergence frequently is a letter as a thing. The pictorial arrangement of the text or letters that are connected in order from an illustration is a manner that animates to write and connect. In Slovakia, the visual lineage to interwar avant-garde is not traceable as in the Czech context and is in the Czech Republic. Here we discovered it, for instance, in the work of Ladislav Čáder, as well as artists of the older generation, for example, Rudolf Fabry, Alois Ryškovič, William Weisskopf, and many others. At the beginnings of 1960s, in the work of mid-age generation, Rudolf Artrichter, Emil Bačík, or Marian Čunderlík, as well as graphic designer of the upcoming generation, Pavel Blaž. Stylization of the drawing and the caricature-like character of design began to dominate. Here we can see a comparison between the collage or photomontage of mid 1960s, Jan Mraz, Marian Čunderlík, or Pavel Blažo. The more progressive character of the book design and illustration was also related to return to creative process of the avant-garde of use diagonals, work with the text as part of the picture or montages. Montage is an artistic process based of joining elements by grouping of interconnecting them. The principle of montage is related to processing of photomontage, typemontage, collage, or assemblage, or even some types of work with an object. Collage and photomontage are approaches that belong as a wider group of montage. Montage is a way of forming a new meaning by insert partial components that create a new meaning in the spirit of construction imaginary on the base of creator or approaching the works. The collage can be characterized as an artistic means of expression based of joining prints parts into new untils. The compositional nature of the manifested in the art of 20th century since anti-romantic and ironic gesture through evocation of reality in its antonymous image structuring of visual poetry. As an artistic accompaniment to the text, the collage appears during the avant-garde period, significantly in a Czechoslovak context. Collage experiences is the renaissance of the late of 1950s and early 1960s, when it became a tool for the creating images for ready-made components using cut-out color surface, as well as combination of drawing and glues that complements drawing of the other design technique. Through reproductive techniques, elements appears to represent situation referring to everyday reality. The collage has a potential of associative connections. It frees the imagination. It can be a tool for the application of art automatism. The term implies the very form of material adjustment or non-poetical material of the center of artistic production. It combines them with the effort, a creative, a new kind of. The important Czech art historian Jiří Padrta, in his text titled Poetry of Glued Paper, points out that there is a romantic aspect of man's confrontation with the world in the collage technique. It's a tension between a subject and external reality, technical civilization. In the text, he writes, the diverse relation levels on the which artist encounters the trivial factual reality take place characterize their use in terms of affective value. The question of the real factual reality, which is strongly implied by the collage, seems to decide once for all from this point of the work of imagination on which all art depends. Imitation. This is already present. Is the appropriated images which can be handled freely. The use of fragmentation violences the principle of totalitarianism of the images of the image and draw attention to the work and construct artifact. The German literary and artistic historian, artistic theorist Peter Burger regards these qualities as an important work of art. The avant-garde work evokes a break in the reception, which is analogous of the inorganic character of the work. Instead of focusing of recipient attention and understanding of meaning based on the connection between the work, focuses his attention on principle. And now in this between two examples of collage of late 20s by Alexander Rodchenko and Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, and on the right side is some example early 60s by Oldenburg, Jacques Villek, and American artist Saul Steinberg. And the second part of my presentation was concentrated on examples from Slovak context of Slovak artists and his or her book design. The work of Igor Kostka is characterized by a tendency toward grotesque and cartoon. Hyperbolization, distorted with a funny grotesque subtext, is what characterized Kostka's work, not only in the case of his drawing for a magazine, for example, Kulturny život or Rohač magazine, but also in his book illustration. What is important in the relationship of the linear drawing itself and the fragment of the image, the relation of abstraction and reality. He creates tension between a created and appropriated image. The absurd comic comes from the nonsense as a metaphor for the world. The execution of the figure is already subordinate to hypertrophy and interwalling with the fragments of reality, only strengthness of the comic nature. This motif appears already in Kostka artistic accompaniment by the book Štefan Sabo, Kmotor na or Woodfather on the Sherry from 1961. Here is a cover of this book. And here is a few examples from pages. And in 1964, a book by author Milan Kenda, Myšlienky učesané na ježka, Thoughts Combed by Hedgehog. Here we can see on the right side the cover of this book, and here is few examples from his illustration and graphic design. In it, the visual side of the book was fully enforced. Kostka decided to use illustration to comment on short aphorisms and jokes, and he also embarked a full page editing with his graphic design thinking is applied. The illustration no longer illuminates the text, but became a banner, as if it were advertising or promotional poster. It used the tool of the relation. It used the tool of the relationship of the text, font, and images, and composed them into visually impressive pieces. In the illustration fill 2/3 of pages, and together with another book by Miroslav Kostka. Miroslav Kostka was a pseudonym of Slovak author Kornél Feldvári. This book in 1963, and illustration and graphic editing is the work by Igor Kostka. The name of the book is Netypické príbehy or non-typical stories. It was the most elaborate work of Igor Kostka. Negation of autonomy of the image is a principle drawing attention at the antagonism. Individual elements of the collage are subordinate to complexity of the image as a whole. So on this picture, we can see the cover of book non-typical stories and 2 pages. And here is another examples where Kostka combined the the illustration or line drawing with the collage or photomontage. Such forms also manifested a selected work by illustrator Irena Tarasová. Her method of creation always takes into the significance of the image in an attempt to approach the child viewer. The use of textile prints, structure, and design is characteristic for her method, or the work is fully applied, especially in the 1960s. She introduced the paper collage with lace, a piece of polka dot tablecloth, and the geometric of the image. Irena Tarasová was one of the first graduates of the Academy of Fine Art and Design. She graduated from school in political challenging period in 1956. She had thorough painting education, but she has in the book illustrations. Her design for the book by American writer Arthur Jankina Prikryvka or James Blanket from 1967 is formally imaginative, especially in the use of textual advertising inscription glue into the images. From these illustrations, you can atmosphere of Western big cities. This is due to use the banner, inscription, and logos of companies that create a street atmosphere in the whole urban environment. So here we can see an example pages, collage pages by book Irena Tarasová, James Blanket, late 60s, the cover of the book, and a few examples of original illustration. Jan Mraz more significantly made his name in Slovak illustration with several more extensive book design falling into the second half of 1960s. Mraz graduated from the Academy of Fine Art and Design in Bratislava in 1963. Profession in illustrating after the occupation by Warsaw Pact troops, he left Czechoslovakia and settled in Munich, resides. At the end of 1960s, he created several illustrations from the Japan publishing house Gaken. His interest in the collage was already reflected in Hans Wald. We can see the both of these books, Škola detektívov, School of Detectives, and Zločiny pod mikroskopom, 1967. However, he applied the collage approach most intensively in the book of Josef Pavlovich, Unusual Hunter, from 1968. Mraz took a wide range of artistic shifts. The refreshing nature of the book is distribution of image and text, pages of the book, calligraphic motifs on the interchanging fonts used by graphic designer Ondrej Mariáši. The content creating work with the text appears in the book. Size and arrangement of the text creates meaning in terms of phonic significance, but also in terms of visual representation. His last book before emigration to Germany is a book with name Czech author Viktor Dusil. Mraz conceived the book cover using the collage method with the dominant typography of the title of the book, with the application of Western font, and the the image referring to the central motif of this book. So the central motif of this book is in 1969, the end of 60s. Miroslav Cipar studied on the Faculty of Education in Bratislava, Slovak language and education, and later at the Academy of Fine Arts and Design in Bratislava. Already during his studies, he showed versatility. In his work, he devoted himself to illustration, painting, identity, and logos. He is a creator of sculpture, stage designers, and cartoon. Since 1956, magazine. His first book, commission, is in a cooperation with author Lubomír Feldek. Is the book "The Game for Your Blue Eyes." 58. Their friendship is the coming decades has manifested itself a number of joint books. This to project the book Telephone from 1963, or cookbook for children from 68. Between 1963 and 1965, his particular style became cute paper collage or papier collage alternates with print mix, but also with the drawing and photomontage, which is used mainly in the magazine and in the magazine illustration, mostly in a children magazine, for example, children magazine Slniečko, Včielka, Zornička, and others magazine of these years. The techniques are cut of paper applied in Miroslav Válek's book, The Great Traveler Fever. Here is one example from illustration Včielka, from Včielka magazine from 67. And two scans from Miroslav Válek. In 64. The book of poems, inspired by various means of transport, is accompanied by collages where Cipar used different color surfaces and boldly worked with the patterns. The artist also used waste with the material left after cutting out of the object or film. He also involved fragments of text. These parts appear only in the detail in the image as the parts of photos, for example, as the detail size of characters or parts of newspaper. The nominate title of each poem play an important role. The artistic work of artist and illustrator Michal Studený, attribute from the poetics of the 60s, the way of looking at the reality as something has a potential to be miraculous. Alchemical ingenuity, curiosity, and fascination with the things have pushed into the way of thinking about art as a way of creating new meaning from existing things. Studený search of themes and messages about man in the world in the interest of objectivity. He returns of classical genres, especially still life, with he cleanses of the core. The magic quality of every day is developed not only in his painting, but also in his illustration. He accumulates objects in the illustration, stores them side by side like shelves of combined of curiosities. On this 4 scans of photography, we can see his work from children magazine Zornička from 1966 and 1967. During his university studies, Studeny occasionally received commissions of illustration or design of magazine covers. Due to friendly contact with the several he occasionally designed the cover of the magazine Mladá tvorba. The front pages show his style of geometrized figure and the cubist-like still lifes. Already in his early work, he used a photomontage. For example, this picture from magazine Zornička or children magazine Chielka. Occasionally, he gets to create front and inside pages of children magazine, Chielka, Zornička, or Ohník, with which cooperate intensively in the second half of 1960s. In addition of reminding of avant-garde book design, the artist used the elements of the Brussels style, like geometric surfaces, polyhedra, fine pastel tones, fine pastel colors, tension between empty space and the image. Like shooting range of the wall, advertising posts on the sidewalks, motif in this book by Czech author Viktor Dusil. The circus is now beginning from 1967. He applied the central theme of the book is circus, and the subject of illustrators reference it. Studeny used the fixed style known from double-face playing card, which already appears on the cover, whereas in combined with photomontage. The long-term personal friendship with the artist and occasionally author Vladimir Popovič and his brother Ivan Popovič results in the number of cooperation. Mutual book cooperation has realized in the end of 60s when the book When You Are Home Alone from 1969, which Popovič brothers wrote and Studeny illustrated and designed. And this book was published in the Mladé Leta publishing house. In the book, he used photographs by important Slovak photography, Zuzana Mináčová, and created visually compact work. Studeny doesn't work in a infinite manner, nor adapt to a children's perception of the illustration. He brings his fascination about the world closer by the emphasizing diverse from and things that are part of it. In the book, When You Are Home Alone, he doesn't eat in a graphic design style with a variety of refraction. In the book, he alternates work with a clean surface, with the pages, accumulating the image. You can see this process of accumulating of image on this reproduction on the left side from When You Are Home Alone book. Leaving thought the book, the coloring of pages and text boxes permanently changes. And the conclusion of my text, in terms of selection examples of design and illustration 1960s, there is a clear interest of the visual of things, materials, signs of everyday life. The frequent absurdity and comical nature of the text is represented by associativity and grotesqueness of the illustrated image. In the case of the collage, photomontage, or the artistic research of the method of image recycling, after image and creating a new one from the existing one is a way of put objects and the things back into the play. It's a manner of creating spontaneous artistic taxonomies or absurd connections through a playful composition of components. So this was my last slide. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Now, if anyone has questions either to Dr. Kralovič or our previous presenters,